teach in a way where the students can enter the stream of enlightenment, and then when we all die, because that's inevitable, we all will reunited in the realm, also known as the Cool Kids Club. And if you haven't reached arahantship, then you continue to study and meditate and learn what needs to be learned, know what needs to be known, do what needs to be done, while you're in this temporary realm, so that you can become an arahant. And then once all of you are arahants, then you continue to practice and study until you become a Buddha. And then perhaps visit Earth or Pluto or Mercury or, you know, Saturn or something. But there's always something to do. And obviously, ghosts are real, right? A lot of people think that ghosts are not real. A lot of people think that the earth is still flat. A lot of people think that climate change is not real. So ghosts are real and they still hang out here on earth. Visible, audible, perceptual, and tangible. So it's like, okay, well, we, the wise, came to teach you all to not be like them. And they're there. If you want proof, go into the cemetery, go into the mausoleum, and hang out for a couple minutes and see what kind of message the ghosts want you to know. Either you're welcome or you're not. Sit there and meditate. You'll find out very quickly. And then, obviously, if you're smart enough to have gathered and seen for yourself that the ghost realm is real, and you realize, all right, well, I really don't want to be Sarah in here. I don't want to be Tom, Dick, or Harry. I don't want to be, Karen in here. Then you need to do what needs to be done so that you enter and hang out with your teacher or amongst the other couple hundred arahants or couple thousand arahants uh, in the latter days, in the previous days, in the days of yesterdays of the Buddha. So that's where I intend to hang out. I take it very seriously. I obviously don't want to cling on or attach on to things and then die and then like just hang out around my own room and be like, oh yeah, look, I'm a ghost now and I know I'm a ghost. I can like walk through walls and like transport myself and stuff and then but still remain pissed.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
That right. And the text is very specific. The hungry ghost realm has a small mouth and a big belly, and never can quench their thirst.
Oh.
That is rough.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
That is rough. That's rough. That's rough. So yeah, so it's but I've known this. I've known this for decades now, and so that there's no wonder why when I sit and if the camera is ever close enough and you look at my eyes, it is with deep conviction that I mean what I said. That when you die, make sure you reunite with your teacher as much as you possibly can. That's the goal of it. You need to take this very dead seriously. And then I've also had students who have terminal illnesses and they have called me and they have shared dreams with me, which is venerable. I saw that I died, or I saw that I was going to die, and this is the manner of death. And I have done my due diligence, and as the good monk that I am, and I've cared enough. The one thing about my big heart is I've cared so much about them, and I said, okay, you have this disease and your immune system is as such, and we have direct medical evidence. This is your body right now. Then you tell me of this dream, so I'm going to make my interpretations for you right now. And right now, your dream can serve as a warning that, in fact, death looms around the corner for you. So, therefore, if you haven't learned to let three things go, greed, anger, and ignorance of the Four Noble Truth, then perhaps you need to drop everything and come see me so that you can learn very quickly, like fast track emergency mode, right?
Spark Notes version.
Now. Right now. Um, that student obviously did not heed that advice. So, certain students are traveling to see me, and certain conversations will be taking place. And I just hope that they have this understanding that you and I are talking about here, and they don't really fantasize too long about what. Can I take this real quick? It's another
Yeah, yeah,
teacher.
yeah. You're totally fine.
Hi, Vandana. Good, good. Sure, go ahead. Mm, mm, mm-hmm. Right, 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 right. Okay. Yeah, so I'll call you. How about another like half hour? Because I'm on a live thing with a student right now. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. But it's always been in the back of my mind to reunite with my students. And nothing can be more inspiring than what's his name? Mahasi Sayadaw, who led perhaps up to 500,000 people, anywhere from 250,000 to half a million people into stream entry, the first stage of enlightenment,
Oh wow.
where there is no doubt about Dhamma. So, um, yeah, I uh try to meet around that number.
Well, I mean, I feel like your TikTok following enough shows that at least you have a lot of people interested in hearing what you have to say.
I can just only do my best, and I know the ones that's gonna enter the stages, or most likely will win the stream winner. And you just know, as a teacher, when you study long and ardent and practice, you just know along the way who's who and who's what and who's gonna get there. So, but anyways, yeah, I can go on. I can go on for the whole night, but let's talk about you. What's going on?
Yeah, well,
And if it's
I feel
personal,
like
and you need me to deactivate, you let me know. I can just deactivate because we're live.
oh no, it's fine. I'm just like I feel like so much has gone on since I last talked to you, because Tuesday I went and did that art exhibit that I sent you pictures of, and it was interesting because at one point, like I said, there was like an exhibit where it was like writing prompts, and it was like the questions were like things that are on your heart or things you wish you could have said, and like it was just really interesting reading what everybody had to say, but it was insightful because so much of it was sad or negative, or it was just intense in a way, like it was weird because you felt very much heard with your own battles, because you can now see that a lot of people were having either the very same battle or something very similar. So it was very comforting in that sense, but at the same time it was very sad to see the state of the world right now, like that even just a small amount of people that came to see this art exhibit were all feeling varying levels of stress and anxiety and frustration, and like there was very few happy messages in that. So it was very insightful in that sense. I ended up leaving something happy because I was like, let's just break it up a little bit. But so I did that Tuesday, and then Friday I had the day off. So I actually drove, I did a crazy thing, and there is this so what actually got me into martial arts was I was watching this Shaolin nun in LA doing kung fu one day, and she's from Richmond, and she just happened to be in Richmond, which is like less than 2 hours away from where I live. So Friday I did something crazy. I drove up to Richmond so I could take a class with her, and it was really fun. And I just spent the day in Richmond. So that was really relaxing because I ended up spending like 4 hours just studying and reading the this book that you got and lent me. So made a good sizable dent. Um, and then my aunt came for the weekend, and that was exhausting. Very nice to see her, but it is interesting hearing other people's viewpoints on generosity. Because we constantly had, I wouldn't say arguments, but anytime that I was paying for something or, I was seeing somebody that needed help, she would always start a conversation with me that involved, it sounded like her viewpoint was that if she couldn't gain something from it, then there was no reason, they didn't deserve it. Like, they didn't deserve her generosity, or especially with the homeless, like she was constantly talking about how, like, they're probably all drug addicts and they put themselves there, and it's really hard talking to people that have already made up their mind with people like that. Like, I like at the end I was just like, we see it differently. For me, I don't go ahead and create a story for them. Like, I don't know them. Um so that was more of like one of those conversations we just kind of let go because we weren't really getting anywhere.
Right.
But she left this morning, and I have spent a lot of the day reflecting while I was at work on my weekend, and I haven't had a chance to journal yet, but I'm going to journal about the feelings that having her around brought up, because we're very different and we think very differently. And she's very strong in her convictions, and I feel like I'm very strong in mine. And we have opposite convictions, so it was a real test to, like, really follow the Four Noble Truths when hanging out with her.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my week. Very busy.
Nothing could be more inspiring than to take my own life and as an example, like I told Venerable Lee, who's sitting right over here to my right. My own family, everyone's Catholic. On the paternal side of the family, everyone's Catholic, and everybody else is other form of Buddhism besides Theravadan, and they practice every other form besides Theravadan style. So, do you think I run around and convince these folks? Nada, nothing. I show up in robes at birthdays and stuff like that, and I just sit there and I just chill and I just eat and I mind my own business. I actually don't see anybody there. I was invited. I'm here, and I'm eating. I'm chilling. No one talks to me. I don't talk to anybody. I don't feel the need to. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So in life, you got to know what's conventional, what's not conventional, and some people you can't. We are the wise. The wise don't get anywhere near people who are foolish, who think foolishly, who are not flexible, who are strict, who are they're not like a bamboo stick. They're just like this tough iron wall. It's like cool. Once again, there's people who believe that the Earth is still flat.
That is true.
The
I
Earth
did
is,
see a video recently that said if the world was flat, then the cats would have knocked everything off by now. That was funny.
but like what I told you earlier, about the Arahant thing and life after death and reuniting with the group of saints in the afterlife, and how is that? And it's like, who's gonna believe us? And it's like, who cares if they believe us? I don't care. I don't care what anyone believe, my story or not, or my findings or not, empirical or not empirical. I believe it. And hell, even if it ain't even real, I still like it because it's such a great, good idea right now with what we're seeing in the world.
Yeah,
You know?
it's a con. I feel like it's very um opposing to a lot of the more aggressive beliefs and philosophies out there right now, and it's open to everybody, and no one ever. I have friends that are aggressively anti-religion because of their past experiences with religion, but they love talking to me and they love hearing the way I view things because it's so peaceful. It's so come as you are, but like actually come as you are.
Mm-hmm. And the more things I see there, the more divorced I am from society and its reality. The more I see on the news and the more I see around me, the more back to the basics back to the treasure of the teachings of the Buddha. I go back, and there's plenty to do in this arena. And my teacher have said, well, after you die, for sure, one thing comes with you, and that would be your knowledge that you have accumulated over time. So obviously, if I'm gonna be a hungry ghost, I might as well be a knowledgeable hungry ghost, right? So I
That
can
is
sit
true.
there and kind of like play in my head and fantasize or reflect on stories, the Jataka tales, the Dhammapada, all of the stories that the Buddha have taught, obviously in here when I die. Uh, so uh, just wanted to inspire you on that fact. And we all have families that are hard headed and stubborn or stuck in their ways, left wing, right wing, abortion, anti abortion, whatever. It's just like, I don't care to know about it because I have my own crap to deal with right now. I have my own headache and my own noise in my head right now. You know what I mean? And I give kudos to people who sit there and challenge other people, and I'm like, you really have a lot of energy. You ate
Yeah.
that burger, which had 1,000 calories, and right now you are gradually, slowly burning the calories, arguing with this particular fool.
On something you can't prove.
Right.
Like I don't know. I don't as I guess like maybe your words alone can change them, but I don't
So
know if it's worth the effort.
so in the end, we just the wise, the office of the wise, just gets up, go have another Kool Aid, go have another pina colada, Kool Aid, something, and just why waste your breath?
Yeah, I mean, like the entire weekend it brought me back to, and don't get me wrong, my aunt is a very enjoyable person to be around. But she definitely has a lot of, quite frankly, dukkha that she is fighting, and so a lot of things she says is very negative towards herself, and she wants sympathy from others, and it's like that's not going to make you think differently. People saying, "Oh no, that's not true," and it made me think back to that one time we were talking, and you said like as monks you get to the point where like you enjoy being alone more because you can focus more on your studies and keeping the noble truths without that kind of distraction. Because I was getting to points where it's like I am so there's so much going on in my brain right now because of all this interference that I can't focus. And that's
One
when the bad parts come off.
one day you'll be invited within my group of monks, and you observe how we talk, of which we don't. That's how we talk. We don't. We share
Yeah.
this noble silence, and we look at each other's faces, and that's how we communicate. We communicate secretly, subtly, with with
Telepathically.
our eyes, with our eyes, with our eyes. And it's funny, like we'll travel as a group through a crowded setting, and we'll hear all sorts of things. And someone will say something, and we just look up at each other, and our brain, like immediately, the referee in the brain says dukkha, says ayatana, nirota, you know. It's just ding ding. It's like bingo in the head when people share their stories as our senses are activated. Um, and like Venerable Chitanang in Tampa, when me and him look at each other, it's funny. Like when I invite, when I'm at his temple and I'm teaching, and then all of a sudden I invite him back out, and I just, there's many recorded live teachings where you just see each other just look at each other as a sign of gratitude and gratefulness and thankfulness and kindfulness. It's a very profound type of silence um, amongst genuine bhikkhus. So it's definitely a very different experience than in a group setting with other people who feel the need to be right all the time. Feel the need to be right all the time. And the only way we can inspire them, if even they have the intelligence to pick up, is by and through a practice of meditation, and they see how calm we are, how collective we are. If it strikes a particular intelligent nerve, then they are curious enough to know, or to seek out. But if not, then they're just gonna be asleep. Once again, two things: they have poor roots, and they are incapable of understanding the Four Noble Truth.
Yeah, I
So,
don't see my being able to understand those right now.
right. So we just have a lot of compassion for those people and realize that they're going to born, reborn, aka samsara, samsaric formations. We see the tornado of samsara in their head, and at some point, some monks just watch carefully. In a crowded in group, they just close their eyes and they just meditate, and some of them even look like they're sleeping, but they just don't want to see anymore, because once the off representative from the office of the wise, once they open their eyes, their senses are activated and they see around. What they see is samsara, and who can and who won't, or who will sustain that for a very long time. And it just bring quite of a concern, to see the masses of suffering. And so my teacher, just meditate. And I always, before becoming a monk, I always wonder. I'm like, are they asleep? How rude! We're here to listen to Dhamma, and they're up there sleeping. And I was always convinced that they were sleeping. But now being on the other side of on the stage, I now see it too. The training and the ardent practice helps you see into the person, through the person, and realize the samsaric formation and the samsaric residue and residuals within their minds and their bodies, karmic bodies of evidence. And all we can do is give the teachings, accumulate the merit, and then share the merits for those who are less fortunate. Um, and yeah, I think you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, there was definitely a couple moments where like I would lock myself in a room just for a minute, just to take some deep breaths, because unfortunately, I'm still at a point where she can get me riled up with us going on. So I'd have to step away and be like, just compassion, compassion. She's had a tough life. she
Yeah.
she doesn't talk to people because she lives alone, unfortunately. So I think she bottles up a lot until someone is willing to answer or listen. The rest of my family kind of just shuts her out. So I've always been someone that at least is willing to lend an ear for her to talk. And I've told her before maybe she should talk to a therapist, but I don't know if she's gotten to that point yet.
Sometimes I may take it as offensively.
They do.
Mm.
I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. I'm not trained in this.
Right. Right. So, any questions on what you have read, studied, practiced?
I actually do have one question. One of them is kind of probably it's probably along the lines of the situation where like a lot of what I was reading and listening to, they were saying like the Eightfold Path and the Noble Truths aren't necessarily set in stone. It's more of guidelines, and each situation can be unique. But they were talking about how, if I can find it in my notes, like the with right livelihood and the 5 businesses that should be avoided, or at least the 5 that they suggested. One of them was dealing in weapons,
Mm.
and my question was if it's if it's not necessarily a great idea to deal in weapons, could it be harmful to be purchasing and the dealing of those weapons?
Well, you got to think when it comes to right livelihood in dealing with weapons is if you live by the sword,
Then you die by the sword.
the intention behind the weapon is always somewhat um, a little bit unwholesome. One must ask, why do you need this weapon? And are you paid and assigned to protect the world, the earth, or so on and so on? And if you take a life, we already know weapons used to hurt and harm people. The Buddha have already said, don't hurt nobody. Through body, speech, and mind, if you can't help them, well, at least don't hurt them. So we have to really ask ourselves. I mean, if you buy weapons to like uh, collect, I mean, I've had a lot of students that collect. I mean, all over their room. Even my martial arts master, who passed away,
Mm-hmm.
his room was like littered with all sorts of ball and chain and swords. And I walk in, I was like, wow, beautiful collection. But I know in my heart he'll never, go out and really use it. He just used his hands and probably put them on the ground and put them in a Chinese pretzel.
There you
Right.
go.
So the Buddha he gave these guidelines, these suggestions, recommendations that on the spiritual path that you should not try refrain from touching weapons, and just play with the guitar, because nothing comes good with holding a gun or holding a sword or a spear, and it's like, what are you gonna do with it, and all sorts of thought. I mean, just touching it alone, mental formation arises and certain intention arises about enemies or getting back retribution, anger, resentment, and it touches one of the poison in Buddhism, which is anger,
Mm.
hatred, anger and hatred. We all have it. So it's like if you touch this, and now you have the capacity to can do harm to someone, and that's not what we want. We want to totally obliterate any thoughts of doing harm. Now, there have been, if you look up Buddhist monks being attacked on Google image, you will see a bunch of orange in blood, from like countries. I think Bangladesh is one of them. Just when the Rohingyas and Muslims, all sorts of religious wars, and they do beat up Theravadan monks, and you see that we're very bloodied. I mean, some kick back and some retreat. They run more than they fight back, even though the rules say we can't fight back to save ourselves. Kind of like kick them, but no killing. Uh, and it's terrible. And those who are being attacked, obviously, the workings of karma have ripened, and whoever they beat in their last life, now they're gonna get a butt kicking in this lifetime. So that's why the more we sit and meditate and reflect and find our faults to fix it, in hope that such karma never ripens to find its way to our door to the point where we have to use a weapon. That's
Mm.
that's why study quick and practice quickly, so that you attain merits, good merits, showers of merits, and may the merits, may the Dhamma, may the triple gem protects you. That's one way to look at how the practice protects us.
Okay, that makes sense. I felt like it was very much not black and white. That kind of popped in my head while I was listening to one of the videos. Um, yeah, that makes sense though. And then my other question, which may be a silly one, but it was stuck in my head.
Oh, by the way, let me add some things real quick. I myself thought I could never get rid of my gun, and with the help of my dad, I was former chief of security, so
Yeah.
I was in charge of a big group of young armed officers. I was appointed by Felix Perez, and Yeah, I was conditioned to buying through my training and buying through my outside research. Like the world was unsafe. Like I'm charged to keep the public safe, protect life and property, blah blah blah. And I thought I could never let go of my gun. And my dad, he obviously is anti-gun, given the fact that he was a lieutenant in the army. And he says, "Son, before you pull the trigger, just remember that that is somebody's son, that is somebody's daughter, that is somebody's mother, that is somebody's brother. Just never forget that." And he was helping me think, because as a young armed, officer in the security profession, of course we're gonna have fantasies of, yeah, I'm gonna shoot the bad guy and they're gonna do a triple backflip and hit the staircase, and they're gonna sweep in and grab him, or homicide detective's gonna come. But we fail to see that, yeah, okay, you took someone's life, indeed, to try to save others, but their whole family is going to be in turmoil, in despair, pain, and suffering, of which we see now in police shootings, right? I mean, obviously some
Mm-hmm.
are justified. um I mean, it's up to the people to decide whether it is deserved or not deserved, but clearly we see the pain and suffering that follows after such tragic death. Stupid action, a weapon is fired, somebody dies, and the entire family is heartbroken and seeking justice. And the other thing is, yeah, they're going to be seeking retribution and retaliation in the process. So, buying through gradual, wise counseling from my dad, I was able to finally feel safe without one and let go. And part of my renunciation was the successful ability to let go of a lot of things, material possessions and things that I was conditioned long ago and long before. Hmm.
Mm.
Okay, your next question.
Oh, I was thinking a lot about this, and maybe too deeply about it, but they talk. So the second truth is that dukkha is caused by cravings and for desires and thirst. And does there ever come a point where one so badly desires to understand the Four Noble Truths that it becomes a craving and it's no longer beneficial?
It is the best craving you can have right now, said the Buddha.
Okay.
The Buddha,
Is one of the good ones?
yes. So there's good craving and then there's not so good craving. And craving and desire for nirvana, craving and desire for enlightenment, liberation, peace, happiness is the best desire you can have right now temporarily. Even the Buddha told us, don't attach on to peace itself because it does not last. So we're like, "Ah, all right."
Like, damn it.
But moment to moment, we see our desire to be loved, to be heard, to be seen, to be respected, the desire for more money, the desire for financial freedom, the desire to be alone, the desire to not be alone, the desire to be cuddled, the desire to be loved, all of these desires. And we realize what a burden and what a weight. You become happy when you desire nothing. I owe nothing, I want nothing. And if you repeat that in your head, you slow down the gradual workings of the natural mind. The natural mind wants things so that it can feel secure, safe, security and stability. It always seeks security and stability, and you just have to trust what the Buddha said and see it very clearly. The more we want something, the more it causes us a lot of suffering. And just analyze in details the want, the intensity, why we want it, and mostly it's out of fear. It's out of fear.
That makes sense.
I don't want to die alone. I don't want to eat alone. I don't want to lay alone. What if, what if, what if? And then the mind doesn't stay still in the present. And then it has to what ifs. What if I die in my sleep? That hasn't happened yet. What if I go broke? What if no one's there for me? What if I'm stuck or trapped or I'm in debt or no one's gonna bail me out. So it's such a vicious cycle of what ifs. Our mind conditions us for these things. And blessed are those who are able to say, all right, enough. How do we swim out of there? And it's go back to the breath, buying through the breath that reminds us this is the only moment, darling. Ain't no what ifs, hasn't happened yet. And you can't prevent it from happening either, because if karma wants you,
Have you?
it would have you. It would have you by the neck. It would jump on you and have you by the neck. So no matter how much money in the bank you have, and so you thought stability and security, overnight you can lose it all. Overnight it only needs one glitch. We've seen it happen before. We've seen it on CNN where certain banks make mistakes and they've lost like $40 billion and then they want it back and the other bank's like, I don't think so.
I don't have that to give.
Like billions, billions of dollars. Talk about a heart attack.
Yeah.
So, owe nothing, want nothing, and you will see that, life becomes more simple. And that's the problem is people don't know how to live simply and simple life.
I'm just trying to that was one thing that happened this weekend that totally stumped me. Cause I'm working now to try to live in the moment. I used to be, well, I still can't am at times. I'm working on it, but I used to be a worry wart. I would think a lot about the future and stuff like that. But I was talking with my aunt at one point. I was like, yeah, I'm not at this point in time really interested in kids. That's not something that's really in the plans at the moment, I guess. And she's like, well, what are you going to do when you get old? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, who's going to take care of you when you're old and crippled? And I'm like, the doctors, the nursing. I don't know. I'll get there when I get there.
Right.
And I'm just like, how do you live? Like, you create things. You create a whole problem in your head that's not even there.
We suffer more in imagination than actual real dangers.
I was like, I don't have an answer for you. I don't know how to answer that question because I haven't reached that point.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I was like, but I guess that's why people plan like make like 5, 10, 15-year plans is because they're worried about those kind of things that happen 20 years from now. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm gonna have for breakfast tomorrow yet. I don't know how you guys think that far ahead.
My dad's got a saying, "Đến đâu đến, đến." That means whatever comes, comes. Which in turn translates, it is what it is. It can't be what it ain't. If it comes, it comes. It's like, what if, Dad? When it comes, it comes. What if you have a heart attack? Well, when it comes, it comes. What if we lose the house? When it comes, it comes. Nó đến đâu đến, nó đến đâu đến. Each step, whatever comes through each step, then it comes. You can't avoid it. My he's lived the most optimistic life, and I'm very blessed in this lifetime to have seen an awakened being. He's awakened to me, not perhaps the Buddhist definition of enlightenment, but to see my father, a human that suffered greatly, 7 years prisoner of war, POW.
Oh wow!
Lost his mom at a very young age in a family of 6, 7 siblings. Went through the war, was shot at, didn't get hit, came to America. I mean, he just went through so many suffering. And he cracks jokes and he makes people laugh and he's ethical and he's moral. And the way how he lives his life is fearless. That he is a fearless man, walks on the face of the planet with the idea that whatever comes, comes. I don't give a shit. He literally does. I don't give a shit, and I condition myself to be like that, and I have become that, and I like that because I've always been the goodness. You asked me about vacations. Someone asked me about vacations, and you should see the prep, my backpack, like snake bites, snake venom, all sorts of first aid kit, emergency medicine, ciprofloxacin, ibuprofen, Tylenol, and it's just bandage and gauzes, and it's like, for what? Yeah, I mean, there was times where they were handy, but literally living in fear, literally living, always anticipating something is gonna go wrong. When my dad's just like, Dad, did you bring a flashlight with you to Vietnam? He's like,
I'll get
uh,
one when I'm there.
then no, then it comes, it comes. And when darkness comes, darkness comes. I don't care.
He rolls in with a fanny pack. He's like, I'm good to go.
It does, yeah. And when he packed, and I was just like, you have you're going for a month. You packed for 2 weeks. What, a week? What? He's like, man, we just need our wallets. That's about it.
You
And
can
I
get everything
really,
else.
to just witness, to be in the presence of the great teacher, my father, to hear that and to reassure that that is okay. That when it comes, it comes. And as I teach this to all of you, that the opportunity you have to do good quickly, because you never know when crap hits the fan, and when it does, the question becomes how much will you suffer, um, and whether how much of a hold karma has on you during the suffering. Though it is temporary, just how long it has a hold on you. And the more good that you do, the realization that I need to give more and take less to do good, to be generous. And that does not mean give money for, no. To be generous is to be generous in helping others, to be generous to hear their stories, to be generous to do kind and nice things for them. You
Hmm.
know, the priest ordination in the Catholic world, the cardinals, the archbishop says, always be generous uh, when people reach out for help. And obviously, the archbishop doesn't mean, yeah, get ready to give him $50. What he means in the liturgy and the homily is always be generous in answering God's call, and always be generous in answering God's people. I thought that was like the most beautiful thing. And when I'm bored, I kind of listen to their ordination process and homilies over and over again to remind myself always be generous in answering the call. And then of course, like today, if I literally like go through, like show to you today the amount of phone calls today, that like every 5 minutes for the past 3 hours somebody calls, like literally
Yeah, but say that.
the timestamps right there. Literally timestamp every like 15, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's unreal. And it's like, do I get annoyed? Yes, I'm human, human sentiment. And it's just like, but you know what, but it's sayings like that, it's like always be generous in answering the call for people. This is who we are. We've dedicated our life for service. So never tired of serving people. It's words like that that uplifts us, comforts us, reinvigorates us, re-energizes us in the moments that people need us the most. You know, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's so easy. Like, I'm hungry. I'm tired. Oh, I'm a starving monk, or I don't have energy to deal with this or that. That's so easy to do. It's like, okay, well, you just the rest of the other lazy monks. But to now talk to you after 40 phone calls, see how enthusiastic I am, and see the energy level that's here to
Yeah.
to live these words, to live by these words, live it, breathe it. Hmm.
Well, I know that I appreciate it.
And of
I
course,
don't know where I would
I
be.
expect nothing in return, just because it's not a gift, right? If something is being expected in return. So a gift is you give something full heartedly without expecting anything in return.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and of course, if I ask something in return, it's not a gift anymore. So it cancels out any karmic, good karma currency. And when I do suffer, I'm gonna suffer really bad. And who am I gonna blame, right? It's like, yeah, Venerable Chidao, you were not generous in the call for people. You expected, in fact, something in return. You violated the vinaya that you asked for money, and the only thing you can ask for is a cup of water. You did these things. Now you will live for the rest and remaining balance of your life as a crippled old um um paralyzed man for the rest of your life. And we've seen that. Look around. There's plenty of people who were paralyzed and did not wake up. Have one eyeball, have one kidney. One kidney failed this morning. One bladder decided not to work.
I don't know why that would make
Venerable Lee's journey, the witnessing of the things that have unfolded in my presence through the many humans, help him see what I have previously described before as a capital life felony karmic debt, capital life felony karmic sentence, where he has sat here and watched certain case studies where I'm like, look, this woman is this profession of helping profession for people in humanity. I have never seen this woman said anything wrong or bad or ill will, and yet look at what karma's done to this woman. She will never catch a break.
Hopefully, she's fixing it in this life. Oh. Darn it.
That's one hell of a prognosis.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not good. But that pretty much answers such as life. Got one life to live. We got to figure this one out. And the Buddha gave us a lot of instructions on how to live life. Do good, don't do any evil. Chill. Here's the methods. Follow them. So
simple.
And
everyone's like, wow, why is it so simple but so hard? One thing I did find really interesting was the push on the importance of understanding that the noble truths aren't something to attach yourself to, in the sense of you hope that at some point in your many lifetimes you will be able to let them go and move on to a higher realm because you've finally understood them. And I found that to be very interesting teaching, and really proving the fact that it's not a commandment in the sense of like what I was raised on, the 10 Commandments. So
I found this comical but dead straight point true to the point. They said man, humanity, humans can create millions of laws, but it's all going to remain the same because you can't follow the basic 10 commandments that God have given you, the 10 basic laws that God's given you. I fell out of my chair when I read that today. I was just like,
it's so true though.
You right. I give you that. Cheers. You right.
Or like the excuses or the loopholes people find. Like, one of the biggest questions I always asked my parents growing up, trying desperately to understand their belief system, was how can literally one of the commandments be don't kill people, and then yet we justify war in some way, shape, or form? I could never understand that. And they always had answers galore for why, and I was like, that's... So is there exceptions? They're just like in fine print that I don't see in the commandments, or?
Yeah, well, men wrote the Bibles, and if you compare different Bibles from different countries, God tells them different things. That's why we need to, perhaps, like for example, the Catholic Church, so that you could be like, well, what did he actually say? Because he said Jerusalem was ours, and another country is his, and like, which country belongs to God again? So,
can you show me the first edition? I need to see that one.
Right. Authority to teach, right? And so that's like a whole other arena of religion and war, and it's just like, chill out. If the Buddha came to try to break up the fight, the Buddha would be like, it's everybody's country. Countries don't even exist. Y'all don't exist. Nobody exists. What is a tree? There is no such thing as a tree. There's no such thing as a land. There's no such thing as a nation that suffers. What is a nation that suffers? How can a nation suffer? The humans in a nation suffers. But we like human rights don't exist. It's just like we make up all the money don't exist, but yet we believe in it. We believe in so many things. So the Buddha would jump in there and like try to wake everybody up with that truth, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, it's a story that we made up in our head, and we lived it, and billions of people, millions of people have died, and oops, oops,
Sorry.
sorry,
We missed that lesson.
yeah, but any further questions?
No, I think I'm good for now. Yeah. I like really dived in on the noble truths this week, so my brain was very full.
Good, good. Well, it's full with good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, good. I'm happy. So we reconvene next time. Have you journaling a lot? Yeah. Yes. No.
Yes, I need to journal tonight, but yes.
Right.
I
Right.
have.
Everything that we have spoken about, everything that has transpired, write it down so that you see things unfolding and realize what was the wisest decision, what was or what was not, how you can do it better next time. Reflect on all of my recommendation, advice, and answers to your question. This way, you're compounding your wisdom
I can do that.
because one day you'll need it.
I hope I have it when I need it.
Just wait for it. That's what we say in Buddhism. Just wait for it because it's coming. Just wait for it. What's coming? We don't really know. But when it comes, you will be well
You'll
equipped.
know.
You'll be well equipped with a big bag of Dharma teachings of the Buddha to help you out. So
Well,
very good
that's good at
questions.
least.
Very good questions. Continue taking notes, and I look forward to answering more of your questions next week. And did you get that letter out, or still working on it, or?
Still working on it.
All right. Well, we're gathering a little bit of 5% more courage each time we talk. So.
Yes.
All right. Very good. Well, you have a good night, and I gotta go call Miss Vanna back here.
Yes. Have a good night as well.
Okay.
Hopefully, you go to bed at a good time.
All right. Good night, Bree. Take care. Bye bye.
See ya.
Are you ready for me to call you?